The fluorescent lights of the convenience store flickered above me as I restocked the shelves, my fingers moving mechanically over each product. It was nearly midnight and my shift would end in 30 minutes. 2 years ago, I would have been excited to go home. 2 years ago, I still believed that love was supposed to make you feel whole. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it was. Minjin, why aren't you home yet? I'm hungry. No, how are you, or be safe. Just demands. I typed back quickly, my heart doing that familiar anxious flutter it always did when responding to him. Me, my shift ends at midnight. I can pick up something on the way home. Minjin, whatever. Just hurry up. And don't get anything spicy. You know I hate that. I pocketed my phone and caught my reflection in the glass door of the refrigerator section. Even in the harsh lighting, my features looked delicate. High cheekbones, full lips, eyes that tilted slightly upward at the corners. My mother always said I was beautiful, that my tan skin glowed like honey in the sunlight. But Minjin's voice echoed in my head, drowning out her words. You're too dark, Woo Bin. It's honestly a turn off. Why can't you be paler? You'd actually be attractive then. I can barely get it up when I look at you. I pressed my palm against my stomach, where my omega biology made me especially sensitive to rejection from a partner. The constant criticism had carved something hollow inside me, a space that kept growing no matter how much I tried to fill it with understanding, with patience, with hope that things would change. Lee Woo Bin, my manager called out. You can head out early. It's dead tonight anyway. I bowed gratefully and grabbed my jacket, stepping out into the cool Seoul night. The streets were quieter than usual, with only a few cars passing by and the occasional late-night pedestrian. I started walking toward the subway station, my mind wandering as it often did these days. That's when I saw them. A couple stood beneath a streetlight about 20 meters ahead, holding hands and laughing about something. The alpha had his arm around his omega partner's waist, pulling him close and pressing a kiss to his temple. The omega's face lit up with such pure joy that it made my chest ache. Was that what love was supposed to look like? I imagined Minjin and me in their place. Him looking at me with softness instead of disdain, touching me with tenderness instead of obligation. The fantasy was so vivid, so painfully beautiful, that I didn't notice I had wandered into the street. The blare of a car horn shattered my daydream. Headlights bore down on me, blinding and terrifying. My body froze, muscles locked in fear. This was it. This was how I would die, distracted by dreams of a love I would never have. Then a hand gripped my arm with crushing strength, yanking me backward so hard that I stumbled and fell against a solid chest. The car rushed past, the driver shouting obscenities out the window. My heart hammered against my ribs, adrenaline making my hands shake. Are you insane? A deep voice rumbled above me. You could have been killed. I looked up and my breath caught. The man holding me was stunning. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, black hair swept back from his forehead. He wore an expensive-looking coat and carried himself with the kind of confidence that came from power and success. His alpha pheromones washed over me, cedar and rain and something crisp like winter air, and my omega instincts responded immediately, my body relaxing into his hold. I'm sorry, I stammered, pulling away quickly. I wasn't paying attention. He studied me with an expression I couldn't read, his gaze traveling over my face in a way that made heat rise to my cheeks. Clearly. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Thank you for saving me. You should be more careful. He paused, then added more softly, the world is dangerous enough without inviting death by distraction. Something about the way he said it made me think he understood, that he, too, knew what it was like to escape into thoughts just to avoid reality. I will be. Thank you again, really? I bowed deeply, ready to flee from this embarrassing encounter. Wait. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I stared at him. What? Why? Because I just saved your life and I'd like to make sure you actually survive the week. The corner of his mouth quirked up. Consider it a follow-up on my investment. Despite everything, I felt myself smile. It had been so long since someone had made me smile. I recited my number and his phone chimed as he saved it. I'm Kim Ji-won, he said, extending his hand. My eyes widened. Everyone in Seoul knew that name. Kim Ji-won, CEO of Kim Industries, one of the youngest and most successful businessmen in Korea. And he had just saved my life. Lee Woo Bin, I managed, shaking his hand. His grip was firm and warm. Well, Lee Woo Bin, try to stay out of traffic. He released my hand slowly, his fingers trailing across my palm in a way that sent shivers up my arm. I might not be there next time. He walked away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with my heart racing for entirely different reasons now. My phone buzzed angrily. Minjin, where the hell are you? I'm starving. The warmth I'd felt moments ago evaporated. I hurried toward the subway, the ghost of Kim Ji-won's touch still tingling on my skin. I entered our apartment quietly, hoping Min-jin might have fallen asleep. No such luck. He was sprawled on the couch in his underwear, playing video games with the volume turned up too loud. Finally, he said without looking at me. I'm starving. What took you so long? I almost got hit by a car, I said, setting down the takeout I'd picked up. Well, you're fine, aren't you? He paused his game and looked at me, his eyes traveling down my body with that familiar expression of disappointment. Did you eat already? You look bloated. I hadn't eaten since lunch, but I said nothing. Min-jin was a beta, and while our relationship had started out full of promise, something had shifted over the past 2 years. He had become critical, cold, and increasingly cruel about my appearance. I brought your favorite, I said softly, unpacking the containers. He grunted and returned to his game. I watched him for a moment, trying to remember what I'd fallen in love with. He had been charming once, attentive and sweet. Or maybe I'd just been desperate for someone to choose me, to want me despite my omega status and darker skin tone. Korean beauty standards were ruthless. Fair skin was prized above all else, and as an omega with tan skin, I had always felt like I was fighting an uphill battle. Min-jin had seemed different at first, he'd called me exotic, unique. But those compliments had slowly transformed into criticisms. You're not even going to eat with me? He asked, annoyed. I'm not hungry. Good. You should lose some weight anyway. He shoved noodles into his mouth. I saw Park Hyun at the gym today. His omega is so pale and pretty. Makes me wonder what I'm doing with you. The words hit like physical blows, each one finding the bruises that already existed. I cleaned up the kitchen silently, blinking back tears. This was normal now. This was love, wasn't it? Staying even when it hurt, working to be better, to be worthy. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown, this is Kim Ji-won. Just checking that you made it home safely. My heart skipped. He had actually texted me. I did. Thank you again for earlier. Kim Ji-won, good. Try not to wander into traffic. Before we dive into this heartwarming, emotional, slow burn romance Omegaverse story, note, this is an original work of Milliflex channel. If seen in another channel that is not Milliflex, please report that channel for copyright and impersonation. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. Tomorrow. I smiled despite myself and Min-jin noticed. Who are you texting? His tone was sharp. Just a friend, I said quickly. Since when do you have friends? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You spend all your time at work or here. Don't start lying to me now, Woo Bin. I'm not lying. Someone helped me earlier when I almost got hit by a car. They were just checking in. Min-jin's eyes narrowed. Is it a guy? I hesitated too long. Unbelievable. He stood up, advancing on me. 2 years I've put up with you with your dark skin and your mediocre looks, and now you're texting other guys? It's not like that. Do you know how many people have asked me why I'm with you? Do you know how embarrassing it is to have an omega who looks like he just came back from the beach? He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. You should be grateful I stay with you at all. Tears spilled down my cheeks. My omega instinct screamed at me to submit, to apologize, to make peace. But a tiny voice in the back of my mind, one that sounded like my mother, whispered that this wasn't right. I'm going to bed, I said quietly, pulling away from him. Of course you are. Running away like you always do. He returned to his game. You're pathetic, Woo Bin. Honestly pathetic. I closed the bedroom door and slid down against it, hugging my knees to my chest. The sobs came quietly, years of suppressed pain finally finding cracks to seep through. I had given Min-jin everything, my time, my heart, my self-worth, and he had systematically destroyed all of it. My phone buzzed again. Kim Ji-won, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I mean that. I stared at the message for a long time. A stranger had shown me more kindness in one evening than my boyfriend had in months. What did that say about my life? What did that say about me? I saved his number and typed a response. Me, thank you. That means more than you know. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and walking on eggshells around Min-jin. Kim Ji-won texted me occasionally, nothing inappropriate, just casual check-ins that somehow became the brightest parts of my day. He would send me articles he thought I'd find interesting, or pictures of coffee from whatever cafe he was working at. It felt like having a friend, something I'd been missing for longer than I cared to admit. Meanwhile, things with Min-jin deteriorated further. He barely touched me anymore, and when he did, it was with such obvious reluctance that I felt like I was forcing myself on him. The rejection gnawed at my omega instincts, making me feel unwanted and undesirable. I finally broke down and called my best friend, Hanol, desperate for advice. He won't even look at me anymore, I confessed, my voice cracking. He says I'm not attractive, that my skin is too dark, that he can't get excited when he sees me. I don't know what to do, Hanol. I've tried everything. Hanol was quiet for a moment. Wu Bin, have you considered that maybe the problem isn't you? What do you mean? I mean that Min Jin is an asshole who doesn't deserve you. You're gorgeous, kind, and hardworking. If he can't see that, it's his loss. But what if he's right? What if I'm just not attractive enough? Stop. Hanol's voice was firm. Don't let him make you believe that bullshit. You're beautiful, Wu Bin. Your skin is beautiful. I wanted to believe him, but Min Jin's words had burrowed too deep. I want him to want me again, I whispered. I want to feel desired. Hanol sighed. Okay, look. If you're determined to make this work, and I think you're crazy for trying, maybe you need to shake things up. Be bold. Show him a different side of you. Like what? Like, I don't know, surprise him? Wear something sexy, take some photos, remind him what he has. The idea made me nervous but also excited. Maybe Hanol was right. Maybe I just needed to be more confident, more assertive. Maybe if Min Jin saw me really trying, he would remember why he'd wanted me in the first place. You think that would work? It's worth a shot. And even if it doesn't work on him, at least you'll have some hot photos of yourself. Might boost your confidence. We hung up and I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My tan skin glowed in the warm light of my bedroom. My features were delicate but striking. High cheekbones, full lips, dark eyes framed by long lashes. Objectively, I knew I wasn't ugly. But Min Jin had convinced me otherwise. I made a decision. The next day, while Min Jin was at work, I went shopping. My hands shook as I browsed through the men's lingerie section of a boutique tucked away in 81. I'd never done anything like this before. Omegas wearing lingerie for their partners wasn't uncommon, but I had always been too shy, too afraid of Min Jin's judgment. I settled on a black lace set, delicate but masculine, with strategic cutouts that would highlight my lean physique. The salesperson smiled knowingly as she rang me up, and I blushed furiously. Back home, I locked myself in the bathroom and put on the lingerie. It fit perfectly, hugging my body in ways that made me look and feel sensual. I positioned my phone, trying different angles, different poses. Some were demure, others more provocative. I felt ridiculous and empowered at the same time. When I had about a dozen photos I was happy with, I selected the best ones and opened my messaging app. My heart pounded as I typed out a message to Min Jin. Me, your Omega is sexy, right? I attached 3 photos. One of me lying on the bed, one standing with my back arched, one looking over my shoulder at the camera. Then I hit send. And immediately wanted to die of embarrassment. But it was done. Now I just had to wait for his response. I imagined him opening the photos at work, his eyes widening with desire, finally seeing me the way I wanted to be seen. Maybe this would change things. Maybe this would save us. I waited. And waited. An hour passed with no response. Then 2. By the 3rd hour, anxiety had given way to hurt. He'd seen the message, I could see the read receipt, but he hadn't replied. Maybe he was just busy. Maybe he wanted to wait until he got home to properly appreciate them. I tried to convince myself of these possibilities even as my heart sank lower and lower. My phone finally buzzed and I grabbed it eagerly. But the notification wasn't from Min Jin. Kim Ji-won, sexy. My blood turned to ice. No. With trembling hands, I opened my messages and scrolled to Min Jin's chat. Empty. I hadn't sent anything there. I scrolled to Ji-won's chat. And there they were. All 3 photos. The message. Everything. I had sent my intimate photos to Kim Ji-won, CEO of Kim Industries, the man who had saved my life and had been nothing but kind to me. A strangled sound escaped my throat. I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me whole. This couldn't be happening. This was the most humiliating moment of my entire life. What should I do? Apologize? Explain? Pretend it never happened and change my identity and move to another country? Before I could spiral further, another message came through. Kim Ji-won. Though I have to ask, are you trying to seduce someone, or is this a new form of greeting I'm not aware of? Despite my mortification, I almost laughed. He was making a joke. He was trying to make this less awkward for me. Me, I am so sorry. Those were meant for someone else. Please delete them immediately. I'm dying of embarrassment. Kim Ji-won, your boyfriend? Me, yes. I'm so sorry. There was a long pause. Then, Kim Ji-won, he's a lucky man. And for what it's worth, you have nothing to be embarrassed about. My cheeks burned. Kim Ji-won, powerful, successful, devastatingly handsome Kim Ji-won, had just called me sexy. Had just implied that whoever I was trying to seduce should feel lucky. Me, thank you for being kind about this. I promise I'm not usually this much of a disaster. Kim Ji-won, I think you're being too hard on yourself. Though I am curious why you felt the need to convince your boyfriend that you're attractive. Shouldn't that be obvious? The question hit harder than it should have. I didn't know how to answer, so I deflected. Me, it's complicated. Kim Ji-won, most things worth having are. But Woo Bin. Anyone who needs convincing doesn't deserve the effort. I read the message 3 times, something warm and painful blooming in my chest. When had anyone last said something so affirming to me? When had anyone suggested that I deserved better? Me, I should let you get back to work. Again, I'm so sorry. Kim Ji-won, stop apologizing. And for the record, I did delete the photos. Your privacy matters to me. Me, thank you. I set down my phone and finally sent the photos to Min-jin along with the same message. Then I waited again. His response came 20 minutes later. Min-jin, disgusting. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm at work and you send me this shit? You look ridiculous. Delete these and don't ever do something like this again. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then I went to the bathroom and very carefully removed the lingerie, folded it and put it back in its bag. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and cried until I had no tears left. Kim Ji-won had called me sexy. My boyfriend of 2 years had called me disgusting. Something inside me cracked that day. Not enough to break completely, but enough to let the light in. I called in sick to work the next day. I couldn't face the world, couldn't paste on a smile and pretend everything was fine. Min-jin had left early without saying goodbye, not that he usually did anyway, and I was alone with my thoughts and my shattered self-esteem. My phone buzzed. Kim Ji-won, are you okay? I smiled despite myself. He seemed to have a sixth sense for when I was struggling. Me, define okay. Kim Ji-won, fair point. Coffee? I know a place that makes excellent brew and doesn't ask too many questions. I should have said no. I should have maintained boundaries, kept distance from this man who made me feel things I had no right to feel when I was in a relationship. But I was so tired of being alone, of feeling worthless. Me, okay. When and where? He sent me an address in Gangnam, a small cafe tucked between designer boutiques. I showered, put on my nicest casual clothes, dark jeans and a soft cream sweater, and actually spent time on my appearance. When I caught myself checking my reflection multiple times, I felt a pang of guilt. This wasn't a date. This was just coffee with someone who had been kind to me. The cafe was cozy and intimate, with warm lighting and the rich smell of coffee beans. Ji-won was already there, sitting in a corner booth, and he stood when he saw me enter. He wore dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, looking unfairly attractive in such a simple outfit. Woo Bin, he said warmly, gesturing to the seat across from him. I took the liberty of ordering you an Americano. I hope that's all right. That's perfect, thank you. I slid into the booth, hyper-aware of how close we were in the intimate space. He studied me for a moment, his expression concerned. You look tired. I didn't sleep well. Because of the photos incident? I winced. Can we please never speak of that again? Actually, I wanted to talk about it. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. Woo Bin, I need to ask you something and I want you to be honest with me. Is your boyfriend treating you well? The question caught me off guard. Why would you ask that? Because you sent him photos trying to prove you were attractive. Because you look sad every time you mention him. Because when I complimented you, you seemed shocked, like no one had said something kind to you in a very long time. He paused. Am I wrong? Tears pricked my eyes. I looked down at my coffee, unable to meet his gaze. Woo Bin, he said softly. Talk to me. And somehow, sitting in that cafe with a man who was practically a stranger, I found myself spilling everything. I told him about Min-jin's constant criticisms, about the comments about my skin, about how I felt like I was never good enough, attractive enough, worthy enough. I told him about the lingerie, about Min-jin's response, about how small and disgusting I felt. Ji-won listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each revelation. When I finally finished, he was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to say something and I need you to really hear me, he said finally. Everything your boyfriend has said to you is a lie. Every single thing. You're not unattractive. Your skin is beautiful, it's warm and rich and absolutely stunning. You're not too dark, too fat, too anything. You're perfect exactly as you are. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it to make you feel better. I'm saying it because it's true. He reached across the table and took my hand, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. Woo Bin, that man is systematically destroying your self-worth, and I can't stand by and watch it happen. You deserve so much better than someone who makes you feel like you have to earn basic respect and affection. His touch sent electricity through my skin. I should pull away. This was inappropriate. But I couldn't make myself move. It's not that simple, I whispered. I love him. Do you? Or have you just convinced yourself that you do because leaving feels harder than staying? The question gutted me because I didn't have an answer. I don't know anymore, I admitted. G1 squeezed my hand gently. Then maybe it's time to figure that out. And while you do, I want you to know that I'm here. As a friend, as support, as whatever you need. You're not alone in this, Wu Bin. I looked up at him, at his sincere expression and kind eyes, and felt something shift in my chest. This man barely knew me, yet he showed me more compassion in one conversation than Minjin had in 2 years. Why are you being so nice to me? I asked. He smiled, a soft, genuine smile that made my heart flutter. Because you deserve kindness. And because. He hesitated, then continued, because from the moment I pulled you out of that street, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. My breath caught. G1. I know you're in a relationship. I'm not trying to interfere with that. But I also can't pretend that I don't care about what happens to you. So I'm offering you friendship and hopefully, a reminder that you're worth so much more than how you're being treated. We sat there, hands still linked across the table, and I felt the first real spark of hope I'd experienced in years. Not hope that Minjin would change, I was finally starting to accept that he wouldn't, but hope that maybe, just maybe, I deserved the kind of kindness G1 was offering. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Don't thank me yet, he said with a slight smile. I'm probably going to be annoyingly persistent about making sure you're okay. I think I can live with that. We talked for hours until the cafe staff started giving us pointed looks about closing time. G1 told me about his work, about the pressure of running a massive company, about how lonely it could be at the top. I told him about my dreams of becoming a graphic designer, dreams I'd put on hold to support Minjin's career. When we finally left, the Seoul night was cool and clear. G1 insisted on driving me home and I didn't protest. Sitting in his expensive car, watching the city lights blur past, I felt like I was in a different world, one where I was valued and seen. Think about what I said, G1 told me as he pulled up outside my apartment. About what you deserve. I will, I promised. He smiled and squeezed my shoulder gently before I got out. I watched his car disappear into traffic, then turned to face my apartment building. The light in our window was on. Minjin was home. The contrast between the warmth I'd felt all evening and the coldness waiting for me upstairs was stark. But something had changed. G1 had planted a seed of doubt, and it was starting to grow. Maybe I didn't have to accept this. Maybe I deserved better. Maybe it was time to find out. Minjin was drunk when I entered the apartment. Empty soju bottles littered the coffee table, and he was sprawled on the couch, his shirt unbuttoned and his hair disheveled. Well, he slurred. Look who finally decided to come home. Where were you? I went out for coffee with a friend. His eyes narrowed. That guy you've been texting? I should have lied. Should have deflected. But I was tired of hiding, tired of walking on eggshells. Yes. He stood up, swaying slightly. So you're cheating on me now? That's what this is. I'm not cheating. We just talked. You expect me to believe that? You send me disgusting photos and then you run off to meet some other guy? He moved closer and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. You're such a slut, Wu Bin. A pathetic, desperate slut. The word hit like a slap. I'd endured so much from him, the criticisms, the coldness, the rejection. But this was different. This was vicious. Don't call me that, I said quietly. Why not? It's true. You're so desperate for attention that you'll throw yourself at anyone who shows you the slightest bit of kindness. He grabbed my wrist, his grip painful. You think he actually wants you? He's probably just using you. No one actually wants an Omega who looks like you. Something inside me snapped. I yanked my wrist from his grasp. Stop it. Just stop. Or what? What are you going to do, Wu Bin? Leave me? He laughed cruelly. You won't. You're too pathetic, too afraid of being alone. You'll stay because you know no one else will ever want you. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of rage, of 2 years of suppressed anger finally finding their voice. You're right, I said, my voice shaking. I have been pathetic. I've been pathetic for staying with someone who treats me like garbage. I've been pathetic for believing your lies about my appearance, for letting you convince me that I'm not worthy of love or respect. But I'm done. His expression shifted from smugness to surprise. What? I'm done, Minjin. I'm done letting you destroy me. I'm done accepting crumbs of affection and calling it love. I moved toward the bedroom. I'm leaving. He followed me, suddenly alert despite the alcohol. You can't leave. Where will you go? You have nothing without me. I'd rather have nothing than have this. I pulled out a duffel bag and started throwing clothes into it. Wu Bin, wait. Baby, I didn't mean. His tone changed, becoming pleading. I'm just drunk. I didn't mean those things. You know I love you. I stopped and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who I'd given 2 years of my life to, who I'd made excuses for, who I'd convinced myself would change. You don't love me, I said softly. And honestly, I don't think I love you either. Not anymore. Don't do this. He reached for me but I stepped back. Woo Bin, please. I'll change. I'll be better. You've said that before. Dozens of times. And nothing ever changes. I zipped up my bag. I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who doesn't make me feel like I have to earn their affection. Someone who sees me and thinks I'm beautiful, not someone who treats my existence as a burden. This is because of that guy, isn't it? You're leaving me for him. I'm leaving you for me, I corrected. Because I finally remembered that I'm worth more than how you've treated me. I walked past him toward the door, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. If you walk out that door, we're done, he shouted. You'll regret this, Woo Bin. You'll come crawling back and I won't take you back. I paused at the door and looked back one last time. Goodbye, Minjin. And I left. I made it to the stairwell before the adrenaline wore off and my legs gave out. I sat on the steps, clutching my bag, shaking with the magnitude of what I'd just done. I'd actually left. After 2 years of abuse, I'd finally walked away. My phone buzzed. For a terrible moment, I thought it might be Minjin, but it was G1. Kim G1. I know it's late, but I wanted to check in. Did you make it home okay? My fingers trembled as I typed. I left him. The response came immediately. Kim G1, where are you right now? Sitting in the stairwell of my apartment building. I don't have anywhere to go. Kim G1, stay there. I'm coming to get you. You don't have to. Kim G1, Woo Bin, I'm already in my car. Send me your address. I did, then sat there in the fluorescent lighting of the stairwell, waiting. I probably should have called Hanul, should have arranged to stay with him. But somehow the person I wanted to see was G1. 20 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside. G1 got out, and when he saw me sitting on the steps with my duffel bag, his expression softened. Come here, he said gently. I stood on shaky legs and walked toward him. And when I reached him, he pulled me into a hug, his arms strong and warm around me. I broke down completely, sobbing into his chest while he held me and murmured reassurances. You're safe now, he said. I've got you. You're safe. We stood there until my tears subsided, until my breathing evened out. Then he pulled back and looked at me with concern. Let's get you somewhere warm, okay? I nodded and he guided me to his car. As we pulled away from the apartment building, from Minjin, from 2 years of pain, I felt simultaneously terrified and liberated. Where are we going? I asked. My place. I have plenty of space and you need somewhere safe to figure things out. He glanced at me. Is that okay? It probably wasn't appropriate. We barely knew each other. But right now, G1 was the only person who made me feel safe. Yes, I said. Thank you. He reached over and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. You did something incredibly brave tonight, Woo Bin. I hope you know that. I squeezed his hand, finally allowing myself to believe it. I had been brave. And for the first time in 2 years, I had chosen myself. It was terrifying. But it also felt like coming home. G1's apartment was on the top floor of a luxury building in Gangnam, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seoul skyline. It was exactly what I'd expected. Modern, minimalist, expensive, but there were also personal touches that surprised me. Photographs on the shelves, books stacked haphazardly on the coffee table, a soft throw blanket draped over the couch. The guest room is this way, he said, leading me down a hallway. It has its own bathroom and you're welcome to anything you need. Towels are in the cabinet, and I'll leave some clothes for you to sleep in. The guest room was larger than my entire bedroom at Minjin's place, with a plush bed and tasteful decor. I set my duffel bag down and turned to G1, suddenly overwhelmed by his kindness. I don't know how to thank you, I said. You don't need to thank me. I'm just glad you're safe. He paused. Are you hungry? I could order something. I realized I hadn't eaten since breakfast. I don't want to trouble you. Woo Bin, stop. It's no trouble. What do you like? We ended up ordering fried chicken and beer sitting on his couch, while bad reality TV played in the background. It felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Just hours ago, I'd been trapped in a relationship that was destroying me. Now I was sitting with a man who actually seemed to care about my well-being. Can I ask you something? G1 said eventually. Of course. What made you finally leave tonight? I thought about it, trying to put the feeling into words. He called me a slut. And something about that word just broke through all the conditioning, all the excuses I'd made for him. I realized that if I stayed, I would lose myself completely. I'd become this hollow version of myself, shaped entirely by his cruelty. G1's jaw tightened. He had no right to speak to you that way. No right to any of it. I know that now. But for so long I believed him. I thought that if I just tried harder, was prettier, was better, he'd love me the way I deserved. I laughed bitterly. It took a stranger showing me kindness to realize how twisted that was. I'm not a stranger anymore, G1 said softly. Am I? No, I admitted. You're not. He moved closer on the couch, his thigh brushing against mine. Wu Bin, I need to be honest with you about something. My heart raced. Okay. When I pulled you out of that street when I first saw your face, something happened. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since. At first, I told myself it was just concern, just wanting to make sure you were okay. But it's more than that. G1. Let me finish. He took my hand, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. I know you just left a relationship. I know you need time to heal. I'm not trying to rush you into anything. But I need you to know that what I feel for you is real. You're beautiful, Wu Bin. Not despite your skin tone, not despite anything. You're beautiful because of who you are, your kindness, your strength, the way you smile even when you're hurting. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know that you're seen. You're valued. And whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'd like to show you what it really means to be cherished. I looked at him, at his sincere expression and gentle eyes, and felt something shift in my chest. This was what I'd been searching for with Minjin. This feeling of being truly seen and appreciated. I'm scared, I admitted. Of what? Of getting hurt again. Of believing someone cares only to discover it was a lie. I took a shaky breath. Of not being enough. G1 cupped my face gently, his touch reverent. Then let me prove to you every day that you're more than enough. Let me show you how you deserve to be treated. I just left a relationship. I shouldn't be feeling this way about you. There's no timeline for healing, Wu Bin. And there's no rule that says you can't accept kindness while you heal. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. May I kiss you? I should have said no. Should have put up boundaries, given myself space. But I was so tired of denying myself things that felt good, things that felt right. Yes, I whispered. He kissed me softly, gently, like I was something precious. His lips were warm and tasted like beer and promise. It was nothing like kissing Minjin. There was no urgency, no sense that I needed to prove myself. It was just perfect. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Stay here tonight. Stay as long as you need. I won't push you for anything you're not ready for. I just want you to feel safe. Thank you, I murmured. We stayed on the couch, wrapped in each other, while the city glittered outside the windows. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Like I wasn't drowning in someone else's expectations and cruelty. Later, as I lay in the guest bed wearing G1's soft t-shirt, I realized something important. I deserve this kindness. I deserve to be treated with respect and affection. And maybe, just maybe, I deserve to be happy. The next few weeks passed in a dreamlike haze. I stayed with G1, telling myself it was temporary while I figured out my next steps. But every day it became harder to imagine leaving. He was patient with me, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. Some nights we just talked, sharing stories about our lives. Other nights we watched movies and I'd fall asleep against his shoulder. And sometimes, when the loneliness became too much, he'd hold me while I cried about everything I'd lost and endured. But mostly he showed me what it meant to be cared for. He made me breakfast in the mornings, actual cooked meals, not just the convenience store food I'd lived on with Minjin. He asked about my day, listened when I talked, remembered small details I mentioned. When I expressed interest in returning to graphic design, he bought me a high-end tablet and software, encouraging me to pursue my dreams. You have talent, he said, looking at my designs. Why did you give this up? Minjin said it was impractical. That I should focus on stable work to support his career. G1's expression darkened. He asked you to give up your dreams? He didn't ask. He just made it clear that my dreams weren't important. I shrugged, trying to downplay it. I convinced myself he was right. He wasn't. Your dreams matter, Wu Bin. Your passions matter. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. He pulled me into his lap, wrapping his arms around my waist. Promise me you'll start designing again. For yourself, not for anyone else. I leaned back against his chest, feeling safe and valued. I promise. Physical intimacy developed slowly between us. G1 never initiated more than I was comfortable with, always checking in, always making sure I felt safe. When we finally kissed again, really kissed, deep and passionate, it felt like coming alive after years of numbness. His hands were reverent on my body, exploring gently, worshipfully. When he touched my skin, he murmured how beautiful I was, how perfect. Every word was a balm against Minjin's cruelty. You're stunning, he breathed against my neck, his lips trailing kisses along my jaw. Your skin is gorgeous. Everything about you is gorgeous. I wanted to cry from the tenderness of it. G1. Tell me what you need, Wu Bin. Tell me how to make you feel good. Just keep touching me. Keep telling me I'm beautiful. You are. You're the most beautiful person I've ever seen. We made out like teenagers, learning each other's bodies and preferences. G1 was attentive and patient, never rushing, always focused on my pleasure. When his hand slipped beneath my shirt, his touch was electric. Is this okay? He asked. Yes, please. His hands mapped my torso, thumbs brushing over my nipples until I gasped. You're so responsive, he murmured. I love watching you react to my touch. No one had ever talked to me like this during intimacy. Minjin had always been silent, mechanical, like he was fulfilling an obligation. G1 made me feel desired, cherished, sexy. I want to make you feel good, he said, his hand moving lower. Will you let me? Yes. He stripped off my clothes slowly, his eyes dark with desire but his touch gentle. When I lay naked before him, I felt vulnerable but not ashamed. The way he looked at me like I was art, like I was precious, erased years of Minjin's criticism. Perfect, he breathed. You're absolutely perfect. He kissed down my body, taking his time, learning what made me gasp and moan. When he took my length in his mouth, the pleasure was so intense I nearly sobbed. He worked me expertly, his hands caressing my thighs, his eyes watching my reactions. G1, I'm close. He hummed around me, the vibration sending me over the edge. I came with a cry, my body shaking with the intensity of it. He stayed with me through it, then kissed his way back up my body. Beautiful, he murmured, gathering me in his arms. You're so beautiful when you let go. I clung to him, overwhelmed by emotion. That was just the beginning, he promised. Whenever you're ready for more, I'm here. 3 months after leaving Minjin, I felt like a different person. I'd started freelancing as a graphic designer, building a portfolio and client base. I'd reconnected with Hanol, who was thrilled to see me happy. And most importantly, I'd started to heal. G1 and I had fallen into a comfortable relationship. We hadn't defined it officially, but we both knew what we were to each other. He was patient with my healing process, never pressuring me, always supporting me. One evening, as we cooked dinner together in his kitchen, he brought up something that had been hovering between us. Wu Bin, can I ask you something? Of course. What are we? I know what you are to me. But I want to hear what you think. I set down the knife I'd been using and turned to face him. What am I to you? He moved closer, cupping my face. You're everything. You're the person I think about when I wake up and the last person I think about before sleeping. You're my best friend, my confidant, the person who makes me laugh and challenges me to be better. And I'm completely, hopelessly in love with you. My breath caught. You love me? I've loved you for months, Wu Bin. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell you. His thumb brushed over my cheekbone. I love every part of you. Your kindness, your strength, your creativity. The way you wrinkle your nose when you're concentrating on a design. The way you curl into me at night. Your gorgeous skin and beautiful features. Everything. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I love you too. I think I have for a while, but I was scared to admit it. Scared it was too soon, scared I was just rebounding. You're not rebounding, he said firmly. What you feel is real. What we have is real. I love you, I said again, letting myself believe it. I love you so much, G1. He kissed me deeply, pouring everything he felt into it. When we broke apart, both breathless, his eyes were intense. Be my boyfriend officially. Move in with me not as a guest but as my partner. Let me love you the way you deserve. Yes, I said without hesitation. Yes to all of it. That night we made love for the first time. G1 laid me on his bed like I was something precious, taking his time undressing me. His hands were everywhere, relearning my body with new purpose. You're sure? He asked, positioned between my thighs. I've never been more sure of anything. He prepared me carefully, stretching me with fingers and lubricant, making sure I was ready. His patience and care made me feel safe, cherished. When he finally pressed inside me, the sensation was overwhelming. He moved slowly at first, letting me adjust, his eyes locked on mine. You feel incredible, he groaned. So perfect. More? I gasped. Please, G1. He set a steady rhythm, each thrust deliberate and deep. His hands caressed my skin, his lips never straying far from mine. He made love to me like he had all the time in the world, like my pleasure was his only priority. Look at me, he commanded softly. I want to see you. I met his gaze, and the intensity there took my breath away. This was what love looked like. This was what it felt like to be truly seen and cherished. I love you, he murmured, his movements becoming more urgent. I love you so much, Wu Bin. I love you too, I moaned, pleasure building in my core. G1, I'm going to. Come for me, he encouraged. Let me see you fall apart. I shattered, crying out his name as waves of pleasure crashed over me. He followed moments later, burying his face in my neck as he found his release. We lay tangled together afterward, sweaty and satisfied, and I realized something profound. I was happy. Truly deeply happy. What are you thinking? G1 asked, brushing hair from my forehead. That I can't believe I almost missed this. If I hadn't left Minjin, if I hadn't been brave enough to walk away, I never would have found you. You would have eventually, he said confidently. We were meant to find each other, Wu Bin. I believe that. I snuggled closer, breathing in his scent. Thank you for saving me. Not just from that car but from everything. You saved yourself, he corrected. I just gave you a safe place to land. 1 year later, I stood in an art gallery in Gangnam, watching people admire my work. My first solo exhibition as a graphic designer and digital artist was exceeding all expectations. Pieces sold, business cards were exchanged, and I felt a sense of pride I'd never experienced before. G1 appeared at my side, slipping his hand into mine. I'm so proud of you, he murmured. Your work is incredible. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. You're talented and hardworking. I just helped you see it. Hanul approached with a huge grin. Wu Bin. They want to feature you in Seoul Arts magazine. Can you believe it? I laughed, overwhelmed with joy. A year ago, I had been trapped in a relationship that was destroying me, convinced I was worthless and unlovable. Now I had a career I loved, friends who supported me, and a partner who cherished me. Later that night, back at our apartment, not just his, G1 and I stood on the balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and pink. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. My heart raced. G1. It's not what you think, he said with a smile. Not yet, anyway. Open it. Inside was a delicate gold bracelet with a single charm, a small sun. For your golden skin, he explained, fastening it around my wrist. Because you glow like sunlight, and I want you to always remember how beautiful you are. I kissed him, tasting salt from my own happy tears. I love you. I love you too. And Wu Bin. He pulled me close. Thank you for being brave enough to choose yourself that night. Thank you for giving us a chance. Thank you for showing me what love really looks like. We stood there as the sun set, wrapped in each other, and I marveled at how much my life had changed. I'd walked away from toxicity and toward light. I'd learned to value myself and accept the love I deserved. The scars from Minjin's abuse would probably never fully fade, but they no longer defined me. I was stronger now, more confident, more whole. And most importantly, I was happy. As G1 pressed a kiss to my temple, I thought about that night when I'd almost walked into traffic, lost in dreams of a love I thought I'd never have. How strange that nearly dying led me to truly living. How perfect that the man who saved my life ended up giving me a reason to celebrate it. What are you smiling about? G1 asked. Everything, I said honestly. Absolutely everything. He smiled back, his eyes warm with love. Me too. And as the last rays of sunlight gilded us both in gold, I knew with absolute certainty that I had found my home, not in a place, but in the arms of someone who truly saw me, valued me, and loved me exactly as I was. I had found the warmth I deserved. And it was more beautiful than I'd ever imagined. The gallery exhibition had been exhausting in the best possible way. My feet ached from standing in dress shoes for hours, my face hurt from smiling, and my heart was so full it felt like it might burst. G1 and I returned to our apartment just after midnight, the city lights twinkling through our windows like scattered stars. I'm so proud of you, G1 said again as we entered, helping me out of my coat. Did you see how many people were captivated by your work? I smiled, leaning into his touch. I still can't believe it's real sometimes. That this is my life now. It's real, he assured me, pressing a kiss to my forehead. You've worked so hard for this, Wu Bin. You deserve every bit of success. I looked up at him, this beautiful man who had shown me what love truly meant. In the soft lighting of our home, his features were even more striking. Sharp jawline, kind eyes, lips that curved into the gentlest smiles. My alpha. My love. G1, I said softly, reaching up to cup his face. I want you. His eyes darkened with interest, but his expression remained tender. Are you sure? You must be exhausted. I am, I admitted. But I want this. I want you. And tonight. I took a breath, gathering my courage. Tonight, I want to take care of you. His eyebrows rose slightly. Wu Bin. You're always so focused on my pleasure, on making sure I feel cherished and safe. Which I do. Always. I brushed my thumb across his lower lip. But I want to show you how much I love you. I want to make you feel as good as you make me feel. Will you let me? Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, pleasure, and deep affection all mixing together. Of course. Whatever you want, it's yours. I took his hand and led him to our bedroom, my heart racing with nervous excitement. I'd become more confident in our intimacy over the past year, but I still usually let G1 take the lead. Tonight felt different. Tonight, I wanted to show him the strength he'd helped me find. Sit on the bed, I instructed gently. He obeyed, watching me with those intense dark eyes as I stood before him. I took my time undressing, letting each piece of clothing fall away while he watched. His gaze was hungry but patient, appreciating every inch of skin I revealed. You're so beautiful, he murmured, his voice rough. So are you, I said, moving to stand between his legs. I ran my fingers through his hair, tilting his head back so I could kiss him. The kiss started slow, exploratory, but deepened as I poured everything I felt into it. Gratitude, love, desire, all of it flowing from me to him. His hands came to rest on my hips, but he didn't try to control the pace. He let me lead. I broke the kiss to work on his shirt buttons, taking my time with each one. Do you know what it means to me? I asked softly. That you see me as beautiful? That you've never once made me feel like I need to change? Wu Bin. Let me finish. I pushed his shirt off his shoulders, admiring his toned chest and arms. You gave me back myself. You helped me remember that I'm worthy of love, that my skin is beautiful, that I deserve to be cherished. Tonight, I want to worship you the way you've worshipped me. His breath hitched as I worked on his belt and slacks, stripping him down until he was as bare as I was. His length was already responding to my attention, and I felt a thrill of satisfaction at the evidence of his desire. Lie back, I whispered. He reclined on the bed, his eyes never leaving mine. I climbed over him, straddling his hips, taking a moment to just look at him. G1, my savior, my love, my home. I love you, I said, leaning down to kiss him again. I love you so much. I love you too, he breathed against my lips. I kissed my way down his jaw, his neck, his chest, taking my time exploring his body the way he'd explored mine countless times. I paid attention to what made him gasp, what made his muscles tense beneath my touch. His hands tangled in my hair, gentle but present. When I wrapped my hand around his length, he groaned. Wu Bin. Shoo, I soothed. Let me take care of you. I stroked him slowly, learning the rhythm he liked, watching his face for reactions. His eyes fluttered closed, his lips parting on a sigh of pleasure. Seeing him like this, vulnerable, trusting, completely at my mercy, filled me with tenderness and desire. You feel so good in my hand, I murmured, leaning down to press kisses along his hip bone. So perfect. You're going to kill me, he groaned, but he was smiling. I continued touching him, building his pleasure gradually. When I sensed he was getting close, I stopped, earning a frustrated sound from him. Patience, I teased, reaching for the lubricant we kept in the nightstand. I'm not done with you yet. I prepared myself while he watched, his eyes dark with want. When I was ready, I positioned myself over him, our gazes locked. Are you sure? He asked, his voice strained. You don't have to. I want to, I assured him. I want to feel you. I want to see your face when you're inside me. I lowered myself slowly onto his length, the stretch and fullness making me gasp. G1's hands gripped my hips, not to control but to steady me, to support me as I took him in. That's it, he encouraged. Take your time. You're doing so well. When he was fully seated inside me, I paused, adjusting to the sensation. It never failed to amaze me how perfectly we fit together, how right this felt. Okay? He asked, concern threading through his desire. Perfect, I breathed. You feel perfect. I began to move, finding a rhythm that felt good for both of us. G1's hands roamed my body, my thighs, my waist, my chest, touching me with reverence. His eyes stayed on my face, watching every expression, every reaction. You're so beautiful like this, he said, his voice rough with emotion and pleasure. Taking what you want, showing me how much you love me. You're incredible, Wu Bin. His words sent heat through me. I leaned forward, bracing my hands on his chest, changing the angle so he hit that perfect spot inside me with each movement. Pleasure built in waves, each one stronger than the last. G1, I moaned, my rhythm becoming less controlled as the sensations overwhelmed me. I've got you, he assured me, his hands steadying my hips. Take what you need. I'm yours. The vulnerability in his voice, the complete trust and love, it was almost too much. I moved faster, chasing the pleasure building in my core, chasing that perfect moment where we were completely connected. I'm close, I gasped. G1, Come for me, he urged. Let me see you. One of his hands wrapped around my length, stroking in time with my movements. The dual sensations pushed me over the edge. I cried out his name as pleasure crashed through me, my body trembling with the intensity of it. Through the haze of my release, I felt him tense beneath me, heard him groan my name as he found his own completion. I collapsed forward onto his chest, both of us breathing hard, hearts racing together. His arms wrapped around me immediately, holding me close. That was... He seemed at a loss for words. Yeah, I agreed, smiling against his skin. We lay like that for a while, tangled together, our breathing slowly returning to normal. G1's fingers traced patterns on my back, gentle and soothing. Thank you, he said eventually. I lifted my head to look at him. For what? For trusting me enough to be vulnerable like that. For taking control. For showing me another side of you. He cupped my face, his expression so full of love it made my chest ache. Every day with you is a gift, Wu Bin. Every moment. Tears pricked my eyes. You saved my life, G1. Not just that night when you pulled me from the street, but every day since. You showed me what real love looks like. We saved each other, he corrected gently. You gave me purpose, joy, someone to cherish. Before you, I was successful but lonely. Now I'm whole. I kissed him softly, tasting the truth of his words. We had saved each other. We had found in each other the missing pieces of ourselves. Come on, he said eventually, shifting carefully so we could separate. Let's get cleaned up and then I'm going to hold you all night. Promise? I teased. Promise? Later, clean and wrapped in each other's arms, I thought about how far I'd come. From the broken Omega who believed he wasn't worthy of love, to this confident person who could express his desires and take control of his own pleasure. G1 had helped me become this version of myself, but the strength had been inside me all along. I can hear you thinking, G1 murmured against my hair. Just reflecting on how happy I am. How grateful. Me too. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Sleep, my love. Tomorrow we'll celebrate your success some more. I snuggled closer, breathing in his familiar scent, cedar and rain and home. I love you, Kim G1. I love you too, Li Wu Bin. Always. As I drifted off to sleep, safe and cherished in his arms, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. All the pain, all the struggle, all the moments I thought I wouldn't survive, they had led me to this. To him. To happiness. I had learned that I was worthy of love. That my skin was beautiful. That I deserved to be cherished and respected. And I had found someone who saw all of that and loved me not despite who I was, but because of it. The Omega I used to be, the one who believed Minjin's cruel words, who thought he had to earn basic affection, would never have believed this happiness was possible. But I had been brave enough to walk away from toxicity. Brave enough to accept kindness when it was offered. Brave enough to believe I deserved better. And in doing so, I had found everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. This was real love. This was what I deserved. And it was more beautiful than I ever could have imagined.